Hey y'all, thank you for tuning in. This is the 2024 Texas A&M preview and prediction. And guys, if you've not subscribed, please do. I would love to get the support. I'm trying to get more subscribers and more people tuning in. But anyway, without that being said, let's start talking about the Texas A&M Aggies. This is a team that over the last 2 years has only got 12 wins in 2 years, and it's a team that's very, very talented. It's a team that Jimbo Fisher repeatedly underperformed with a lot of terrible in-game coaching decisions that left A&M fans just scratching their heads with some of the stuff that he was doing in games. But anyway, that page is over. You've turned the page. Now here comes in Mike Elko, a guy who coached 4 years at A&M prior. He knows the state of Texas. He knows the program. It's a very good hire, in my opinion, and I think it'll be a seamless transition for him. A guy who at 2 years at Duke, did a great job. They beat Clemson last year, and he was, just a great coach. So anyway, he went out, Mike Elko did, and I think, in my opinion, he got a really great hire. And Colin Klein. Colin Klein was the offensive coordinator at Kansas State. Kansas State had the 23rd overall offense in the country last year. I watched Kansas State a lot in 3 or 4 games, and one thing about them is they was extremely physical, and they could run and they could pass the football. And I think you're going to see A&M do that a lot with him. You're going to see A&M offensively much better this year. But anyway, that leads me to the next thing I'm going to talk about, and that is offense. And the guy that's going to be leading this offense is Connor Wegman. This is a guy who in 3.5 games had almost 1,000 yards receiving before he got injured, and that drastically changed their season. That is one concern I have for them, because that offensive line last year for A&M was not very good. They are bringing back 3 guys, and they've brought in a portal addition or 2, but how much are they going to be improved? Will they be good enough to win in SEC competition? Can they protect Connor Wegman? Can they? That's a huge question mark. They do bring back 3 receivers, and Muhammad, Thomas, and Walker, who all had over 300 yards receiving. Walker actually had over 500 yards receiving. So these guys are not Luther Burden. They're not Isaiah Bond type guys, but they're solid, and they know the system. And I think they're going to have really good years, and they're going to really benefit from having Connor Wegman back there to throw them the football. Also, they're bringing back Le'Veon Moss. He had almost 500 yards rushing last year. So offensively, A&M's going to be better than 48th in the country. I don't know exactly what they're going to be offensively, but A&M's going to be better offensively. You can mark that down. Now, defensively, man, Tennessee played against A&M last year. And I know Tennessee was not an offensive juggernaut last year, but we played against that A&M defense, and, man, they were stout, especially against the run. This was an A&M defense that was top 20 nationally against the run, and they were 19th best overall in total defense. That defense last year was led by their linebackers. They were led by that defensive line. Walter Nolan is gone, who in my opinion was the best pickup in the portal that Ole Miss got. He's gone. But the good thing for A&M is they got a lot of depth back there, and there's a couple guys that forego the NFL draft and they're back. And so they're going to really benefit from having Shamar Turner, DJ Hicks, and Shamar Stewart back. That's going to be the strongest part of this defensive team, the defensive line. Another huge thing is they went out in the portal and they got Nick Skelton, who played at Purdue last year. He had 10 sacks, led the Big Ten. Defensive line, you're going to be solid. Might be the best unit on your team, your defensive line. Linebacker-wise, you lose one guy to the NFL draft, in Edger and Cooper. That's a huge loss, but you are bringing back Terrene York. You're bringing in Scooby Williams from Florida. So linebackers, you're going to be pretty decent. The secondary is what I'm concerned about, and you're going to really have to count on that defensive line to get a lot of pressure and make their lives a lot easier. This defense, in a lot of ways, reminds me of the Tennessee defense from last year. They're going to be counting on their defensive line to cover up a lot of holes that they might have. But with all that being said, let's get to this schedule. Okay, so A&M, they open the season against Notre Dame. Notre Dame is going to probably be anywhere between 9th to 11th in the country. Really good teams. They went out and got Riley Leonard from Duke. It's kind of funny that Riley Leonard's playing against A&M, and Mike Elko was his head coach last year at Duke. So this is going to be a really good game. And I think if Duke played A&M, or not Duke, if Notre Dame played A&M at a neutral site, I would probably favor Notre Dame. But they're not playing this on a neutral site. They're playing it in College Station in front of 102,000 Texas A&M Aggie fans and the 12th man. And that's going to be a huge home field advantage. The one thing that I'm going back to that I think is going to be the difference is that really good defensive line for A&M against a Notre Dame offensive line that's probably their weakest spot on that team. Notre Dame has a lot of really good skill players. I like Riley Leonard. And that's the thing, too. They're going to have to be able to keep Riley Leonard in the pocket. If he's able to get out of that pocket and cause a lot of issues, then A&M probably won't win that game. But I'm counting on that defensive line to play really good with the home field advantage, being able to get off the ball. They're going to make Riley Leonard's life hell. And I have A&M winning week 1 against Notre Dame in a huge, huge win for A&M to start the season off with a new head coach. So I got you 1-0 against Notre Dame. You play against McNeese State in game 2. McNeese State is an FCS team. That's a team basically, when they sign up to play an SEC program, they're making close to $1 million to play that game. And that's going to fund their school for the rest year for a year or two. That's basically going to fund their athletic department. So that's why they're taking that butt whipping. But needless to say, you're 2-0 after McNeese State. You'll easily beat them. And then week 3, okay, you got to go to Florida. Now, I don't have high expectations for Florida. Florida has the worst schedule that I've ever seen in my life as far as just how they really screwed them over with the schedule they gave them. It's unfair. They play every team in the state of Florida, and they got an SEC schedule that's just ungodly. They go through a 3-game stretch there where they're playing LSU, Texas, and Georgia. And it's like back-to-back weeks. So, and might even be Ole Miss in there somewhere too. It's just a horrible schedule. So, but I think them playing in Gainesville that early in the year, I really like Florida's quarterback, Graham Mertz. I think they got a great running back in Montrell Johnson. Defensively, Florida's going to be pretty good too. It's going to be hard to go into the swamp and beat them. And I have Florida beating you guys in week 3. So at that point, you're 2-1. It's going to be a very close game, though. And A&M could win that game. I just feel like, all things considered, I think Florida has the edge in the swamp. So anyway, you're 2-1 after the Florida game. You go back in week 4, you're going to play Bowling Green, a MAC school. MAC schools traditionally have give big teams problems. Bowling Green is actually picked to be one of the teams that's going to compete for the MAC title. And they do have a lot of starters returning defensively and offensively. But the problem is, offensively, even though they have a lot of those guys going back, I would rather watch paint dry than watch that offense. And they're just not going to put up enough points offensively to beat A&M. No way, no how. Even if A&M plays badly, there's just no way Bowling Green is going to beat A&M. So anyway, needless to say, you're 4-0, or you're 3-1. I'm sorry, 4 games into the season, you're 3-1. Then you're going to go, then Arkansas comes to play you, I need to get my facts right. You play a neutral site game in Dallas, Texas, Cowboy Stadium. That's always a really close game. A&M always comes out in the end typically. I do think it's going to be a pretty competitive game. Arkansas is going to probably have that circled as one of their big games this year, maybe even their Super Bowl. But A&M's better than Arkansas. Arkansas is losing 2 of their best players to the portal in KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders. And I think A&M, a pretty close game, pretty competitive, but A&M's going to get the job done. And now you're going to be 4-1. And now That's going to take you to week 5. Missouri is going to come to A&M. It's going to be they did you a big disservice because this is a 12 o'clock kickoff game. And I might have second thoughts about picking this game if I knew it was going to be later, but Missouri is going to be coming to you all in Game 6. And Missouri is going to be a really good team, especially offensively. So you got Brady Cook and you got Luther Burden and Theo Weiss on that offensive side of the ball for Missouri, and they're going to be able to really, I think, pick apart that A&M secondary, and I just don't think A&M is going to be able to score enough points to beat Missouri. So all those things being said, I think Missouri gets you, and I think you're 4-2. Now that takes me to Game 7. You're going to go to Mississippi State. This is a team that has a new head coach and Jeff Lebby. Offensively, they can move the football, but they don't have the players. All the skilled players for Mississippi State are very unproven, and defensively, don't even get me started. They're going to be atrocious defensively. Even though this game is at A&M, or I'm sorry, this game is at Mississippi State, and you know, State's bringing in a quarterback that he was at Baylor the last couple of years. He's a very competent, very good quarterback. He knows Lebby's system. But they just don't have the players around them to beat A&M. And even though it's at Mississippi State, A&M is going to win this game. So all those things being said, 7 games into the year, I got you guys 5-2. You beat Mississippi State, you're 5-2. And so now this takes me to the next game. LSU is going to come to A&M. Now, if you've seen my video earlier that I did on LSU, I've got high expectations for LSU. I think LSU is going to have a really good season. Their schedule lines up really well for them. But this was the game that I had LSU losing, and that was to A&M. I just think that I think they catch them at the right time. I think that A&M is going to have this game circled, and I think Wegman's going to have a really good game. He's going to make enough plays, and I have A&M at home beating LSU. But that's one of those toss-up games. It could go either way, in my opinion. It's going to be a really, really good game. A&M's going to be in a lot of close football games this year. So it's going to come down a lot of times to the final possession, and I feel like the LSU game is going to kind of be the same thing. Anyway, got you 6-2, and now I have you going. It's open date, and then you go play at South Carolina. South Carolina is they're going to have a horrible season. They're losing Spencer Rattler. You do bring in Rocket Sanders, but that offensive line for South Carolina is terrible. A&M's defensive line is going to eat them alive in this game. Defensively, South Carolina just was horrible last year. 87th defense in the country. I don't think they're going to be much better this year. I think Connor Wegman's going to have a big game. And I think even though it is at South Carolina, and I think they probably keep it pretty close in the first half, I see A&M pulling away, winning by probably a couple scores at South Carolina, and that'll put you at 7-2. And then let's see here, New Mexico State is the next team on this list. New Mexico State had a really, really good season last year. I think they won like 10 games last year. Actually beat Auburn at Auburn, blew Auburn out actually. But this year they're going to take a step back. They got a new coach, new quarterback, all that, and so A&M shouldn't have no trouble with New Mexico State. They'll take care of them, and they'll beat the Conference USA team, New Mexico State, and you'll be 8-2 at that point. So A&M fans, I think you'll take 8-2 at this point, right? Two games left in the season. You're 8-2. Now you go to Auburn. Auburn is going to be one of those pesky spoiler teams this year. They're not going to be a great team, but they're going to be improved. As far as Auburn's concerned, their coach is in his second year, and traditionally, if you followed him, he does a lot better in his second season. So I think they will be better. But it's hard to go into Jordan-Hare and win. And I think that you're going to go into Auburn, and I think Auburn's going to get you here. I think it's a really good game. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to be kind of looking ahead to that Texas game. And I think you're going to slip up. And I think, going into Jordan-Hare, a lot of times you've got to be a couple TDs better than beating Auburn sometimes. Tennessee has very rarely ever beaten Auburn in Jordan-Hare. Hell, it's hard for Alabama when they're the #1 team in the country to go into Auburn and win a lot of times. That's just how tough it is to win at Jordan-Hare. Probably a top 5 place in the country, in my opinion, trying to go win a football game. It's that tough of an environment. So I got Auburn beating you in that game. You're 8-3. And now you're going to come back for the last game of the season against Texas. I think Texas, at this point, last game of the season, is going to be a top 5 opponent. They'll only have 1 loss on the record at this point, in my opinion. And I think you guys pull the upset off against the Texas Longhorns. And I know that would make you guys immensely happy, because I know you hate Texas with a passion, especially after they stole your baseball coach and all that stuff. So I think you get them at home in that last game of the year. I think it's going to be a crazy, crazy environment, and I think that A&M is going to be able to pull that upset off in College Station. But anyway, I've got the Texas A&M Aggies going 9-3. Huge bounce back season for A&M. This is a team that's only won 12 games in 2 seasons, and this season I got them winning 9 games. They're going to be a spoiler in a lot of games. And beating teams like Texas and LSU, the teams that'll probably be in the college football playoffs. So if you're an A&M fan, you would be, I think, very, very thankful to have a 9-3 season, especially with a new coach and a new coordinator and all the stuff that a lot of people are saying this is going to be a rebuilding season. But I don't think you're going to have a rebuilding season. I think you will probably be playing in a January 1 bowl game this year. So anyway, that was my preview and prediction for the Texas A&M Aggies for the 2024 season. Thank you guys for tuning in.